The Great Depression, one of the darkest times in American history. It all began in 1929.
The Great Depression was a moment when the very structure of American life began to collapse. Families across the country found themselves in crisis. Factories closed down, homes were foreclosed, savings vanished overnight. With nearly 25% of the workforce unemployed, survival became the only goal for millions of Americans. In this chaos, women were often the ones who held it all together. Their contributions may not have made the headlines at the time, but they were nothing short of heroic. In this video, we will explore the untold story of how women became the backbone of America during its darkest chapter, a shattered system and a new role for women. Before the Great Depression, society placed strict expectations on women. Their role was seen as domestic only, taking care of children, managing the household, and supporting their husbands. Men were supposed to bring in the money, but that system collapsed almost overnight. As job losses mounted, many men were no longer able to provide. Some left their families to look for work elsewhere. Others stayed, but struggled under the weight of unemployment and shame. In the middle of it all, women stepped up. They didn't just care for the home, they found ways to keep the home standing at all. Women took on roles that had traditionally been reserved for men. This marked one big shift into how Americans thought about work. Women in the workforce. Faced with the urgent need to earn a living, women enter the workforce in numbers never seen before. Jobs that were once considered inappropriate for women suddenly became available, not out of generosity, but out of desperation. In just a few years, the number of working women rose by 24%. That meant millions of women joining the workforce and taking up jobs in factories, schools, offices, farms, and stores. They became clerks, teachers, secretaries, and telephone operators. Some worked in laundries or cleaned houses. A few even found themselves operating heavy machinery or doing construction work, tasks once thought to be for men only. The pay was low and the discrimination was constant. Women often earned half of what a man made for the same work, just 25 cents an hour on average. But they showed up anyway.
Many women were thrust into the position of working outside of the home. For the first time, a significant number of women made up about 25% of the workforce.
They worked because they had to, because their families were depending on them, and they proved day in and day out that they could handle it. Reinventing domestic life. Not every woman could find a formal job, but that didn't stop them from contributing. Inside their homes, women created new ways to survive. Many turned their living rooms and kitchens into places of business. Some started home-based sewing operations, repairing or creating clothing for neighbors. Others managed boarding houses, renting out spare rooms to travelers or single men looking for work. A few took in laundry or prepared meals to sell to local workers. These small enterprises provided just enough money to buy food or keep the lights on. Even without a business, women found ways to stretch every dollar. Food was rationed carefully. Leftovers were reused. Nothing was wasted. Feed sacks originally used for flour or animal feed were turned into dresses, curtains, and dish towels. Clothing was patched and repurposed over and over again. It was about fighting to keep their families safe, fed, and dignified in a time of desperation. The hidden economy powered by women. Beyond the jobs in home businesses, women also created a powerful informal economy. They formed local networks to help each other survive. One woman might trade eggs from her chickens for another woman's preserved vegetables. Communities set up childcare swaps, communal kitchens, and sewing circles. This hidden, woman-led economy never made it into official government reports, but without it, many communities would have collapsed. Women became resource managers, mutual aid organizers, and local leaders. They weren't just managing their own families, they were keeping entire neighborhoods afloat. The emotional and physical cost. The toll was high, the work was endless. Many women worked outside the home during the day, then came home to cook, clean, care for children, and sew late into the night. Despite the effort, the money was rarely enough. Still, they pressed on. Over 2.5 million women joined the workforce during the 1930s. They didn't do it for recognition or praise, they did it because there was no other option. And yet, in doing so, they changed what Americans thought women were capable of. Building new skills and new confidence. The struggle taught women things that they may have never learned in more stable times. They learned to budget with extreme precision, planning meals for a week with just a few dollars. They learned to negotiate prices at markets, sew clothing from scraps, and manage every aspect of household finance. Many women discovered leadership skills they didn't know they had. They organized food drives, led community efforts, and became informal advisors to others in their neighborhoods. They didn't just adapt to the crisis, they grew stronger because of it. And when the Depression ended, those skills didn't vanish. The independence and confidence women gained during this time stayed with them for life, and they passed it down to their daughters and granddaughters. Resilience in the face of hardship. Some of the stories from this time are almost hard to believe. Families would reuse tea bags again and again. Shoes were repaired with cardboard. Coffee was watered down and reheated multiple times. Meat was often replaced with beans, rice, or even bread soaked in a broth. Mothers turned flour sacks into dresses, carefully adding lace or embroidery to make them beautiful. It even gave birth to the feed sack fashion phenomenon. In a world that had been turned upside down, women managed to keep a sense of normalcy alive. They made homes out of tents and shacks. They raised children in the middle of chaos, and they reminded everyone around them that life was still worth living for. Changing America forever. By the time the Great Depression had ended, the face of the economy was no longer recognizable. A lot had changed, and America was in an era shaped by the impact of the Depression. And in this new era, the women had found new roles and new spaces to thrive. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. Here, mothers invented new ways of living out of necessity. They had shown that they could work, lead, manage, and survive. They had challenged old ideas about gender roles and what women were capable of. They had built the foundation for the women's rights movements that would follow in decades to come. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the Great Depression didn't just change women, it was actually the women who changed how the Great Depression unfolded. So the next time you hear about the Great Depression, don't just think of breadlines and stock market crashes. Think of the women sewing late at night. Think of the mothers feeding their families on pennies. They are a much bigger story. If this moved you or made you see history in a new light, please like and subscribe for more turning points that shaped America. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.